Um, so I'm going to just do a really quick orientation to the farm and its strategic aims and related, some of the overview of some of the key activities and how it fits into the work of the Global Food and Environment Institute. First, just about the location of the farm. You can see marked here on the left side vertically up the image, we have the A1 motorway, and then running diagonally from the lower left up towards the middle of the right side of the diagram, you see the A64 dual carriageway. So this is right at the crossroads between the A1 and the A64, which connects Leeds and York over to the coast. So that gives you an idea, if you're familiar with the area a little bit, of where the farm is located. And you see, and you can see around there's about 350 hectares within this farm, and then just off to the northeast, a mile or two outside the image is Tadcaster. So that's where we're located. And you also get a sense of, you can see some buildings on this image. We have the Spen Farm, which is where the National Pig Center is located. Then sort of right in the middle of the image is the Headley Hall Farm, which is another cluster of buildings with a old World War I aircraft hangar that is kind of a hub of some of the activity around there. And then up towards the top of the image in the middle, we have Wisewarren Farm, where there's right around that set of buildings has been a range of other research projects that have taken place. But other than that, what you see are a lot of fields with that are in different crop rotations. It's about 350 hectares. It's a commercial farm, and the university operates it as a for-profit farming operation, as well as a place that hosts the University of Leeds Research Farm as a facility that we'll talk more about today. Edith, could you just switch to the next slide? And then this is a nice aerial drone image of the new build facility of the National Pig Center, which is at the Spen Farm set of buildings. So this gives some sense, if you've not been out there, of the scale and the development of the livestock facilities. And then beyond that, off to the top of the diagram and off to the right of the diagram extends all the fields that are the arable agriculture farm. So that gives you just a little bit of flavor of what the site is like. I want to just run through the objectives of what we set up this session to be, is to give you an overview of the facility. We wanted to have an open discussion about opportunities to use the site to support research and innovation activities and also student education. It's also to kind of meet other people who are interested in using the site, and to plant from this discussion today, to plant some seeds of collaboration that can develop into new research projects and new research strengths for the university. The strategic aim of the site is pretty simple in a way. It is, of course, there's all kinds of technical capabilities that are useful and important to support research and to support education. But I think more importantly is the site provides a physical space that is part of a commercial farming operation that allows multiple interests to come together and work collectively to define challenges around agriculture and food production, around environmental impacts of land use, and to have a place that is a kind of object, a focal point that draws people together is one of the really important roles for the site. It's a place to design research together and to teach together. It supports activities right across what I call the full knowledge chain, meaning we have activities that are developing out there to support undergraduate student education programs. We have new modules and courses that are developed that draw on the farm, particularly the new master's course in sustainable food systems, and of course, PhD research. research projects through from basic research on perhaps molecular science around environmental processes, all the way through to applied research, through to commercial testing, commissioned research from companies and government, and the capacity to use the site for employee training, for continuing professional development. So all of those things are supported by the site and can be supported the site, and all have space to grow for the activities for people to work together across that whole space. The key assets around the site are the National Pig Center. You saw the photograph and get a sense of the scale of that new facility. There's also what we call the Farm Observatory, and this is a range of digital observing systems embedded throughout the landscape within the farm to draw on environmental variables and link that information up with farm operations information. And very important in terms of physical asset is not just those, let's say, relative components of agricultural production for livestock and environmental aspects, in this case, particularly variable, but linking more and more as well over to combining with livestock production, is the fact that this is all part of a commercial farm. And so the commercial farm operation is also an extremely important part of the value of the site to the university. Just some of the key activities that you will likely be hearing about in the next few minutes are areas like smart agri-systems that supports particularly research demand-led activities around digital agriculture. This is led by Lisa Collins, who's also the director of the National Pig Center. There's also the Net Zero program around decarbonizing agriculture production. That's led by Stefan Kopinski, who you met in the previous session. And then along with that, there's new areas that are developing around areas like smart renewable energy and how energy capture in the rural environment can link into grid energy supply. And also, not least, is the fact that these things collectively are linked up through a number of projects and partnerships with partner sites around the world. So the potential to be a hub, the activity as a research hub linked up with networks of research and education sites around the world is a really important aspect of what we do and what we want to grow at the site. So I'll stop there and I'll hand over to Geza. So Geza, if you want to share your slides and pick up from there. Geza, you're on mute.
So I'm starting again. So hi, I'm Geza, and as Steve said, I'm kind of work at the university farm, and I'd like to introduce you to our brand new website that showcases the farm, which includes the National Pig Center as well as the arable farm. So this website, nobody has seen that so far, so you are the first group that will have a look at it. I won't dive into this because we don't really have the time to drive that through, but there will be a link at the end of it where I kind of briefly dip in to showcase the website. So what you see next is really just screenshots of the website. Oops. No. So that's after the landing page when you've chosen between a 2D or a 3D approach, depending on your internet connection and your speed, which reminds me, I'm running this presentation and the whole thing over my mobile phone, so I'm hoping that the link later on works. So when you kind of click through, you come to this particular page and you can see all these numbers. And there you have the opportunity to kind of click on these individual numbers, and that then highlights our various areas of kits, so the pig farm, our agroforestry plots, and various other assets. So to give you an example, if you click on number 1, you would come and see the pig farm. And you can actually explore the pig farm then through a 3D tour, and you can enter that at the beginning, and you can follow through how pigs are raised from basically the sow shed right into the farrowing where the piglets are born, and then how they kind of progress through the areas until they're ready for slaughter. And all of that you can sort of explore through a 3D tour. And then if you, for example, click on number 11, you could explore the flux tower, which is one of our pieces of equipment. Now, the one thing that we can still really very much do is at the moment, we haven't integrated people's research into this. So at the moment, if you would, for example, look at this piece of kit, you can sort of walk around it and you can see the surrounding environment, but you don't necessarily see the research that we're doing on this. And so that's for this year. Sarah and I are planning to invite people to come forward with research that they have done at the farm in relation to, for example, the flux tower, and then we can post that with a little marker, and people then, when they visit the website, can have a look at that and explore the research and get in contact with people. And then the next bit, and I'm hoping I can actually get into this. So this is, for example, where you then go into number 6, and this tells you, oh, sorry, this is not driving properly, where you can go into the website, and I'll just drive that through, see if that works. So here, hang on. I'm sorry, this is just because I'm on the mobile phone, it's a little bit messy. So this is the interactive thing if you want to enter the website, and you can, for example, click on number 6, and that will then take you on this particular aspect, and you can then scroll through and you can enter, for example, the 3D model of the agroforestry experiment, and you can move through that, and you can see our agroforest. And then you can also read a little bit about the things that we have done in the past. You can go into number 11, which is the flux tower, which I showed you earlier on. So here you can go and have a look at the surrounding area, but also go and have a look at the kit. And as I said, there are opportunities to integrate people's research into this. Let me see, number 4 is the outdoor pig farm. So here you have, again, sort of pictures of the outdoor pig farm and how that then sort of works. So that gives you some kind of idea of what the new website looks like, and where there are opportunities to contribute and sort of more highlight your piece of work. The other thing that I just briefly wanted to mention to you, and also link that to the next presentation that's led by Susanna, is other than the sort of bog standard research that one would expect at a farm, there are examples of new areas of research and innovation that I have started to pull together, and others have started to pull together. And just to give you some ideas, for example, there are opportunities to look at insect biotechnology, our microbiomes. There's a group at the moment that Steve Banward and I are pulling together with people from the medical faculty. So there's opportunities to work, for example, on human microbiomes and gut health, as well as pig microbiome and gut health. Space, linking the farm and the agri-technology to the new space hub in Yorkshire, which the university is involved with. We then have also agri-energy, as Steve already mentioned. So there's opportunity to look at renewable energy system and how that links to decarbonizing farming. Waste valorization is an opportunity. Textiles and fashion, and lots of other areas that I'm hoping that we can maybe explore at a later point. And just to finish off quickly, this is me. So as Steve said at the very beginning of this morning, if you have any areas of interest that you would like to explore, you can get in contact with me, and we can sort of start discussing things as they go. So yeah, that's my just brief discussion. As I said, it's brand new website, hasn't been launched. You're the first people that had sight of this. So yeah, I'm hoping that we can develop that even further by integrating all the research that we've done so far. Thanks.
Thank you, Gesa, and thank you to Steve too for those wonderful introductions to the research farm, and obviously you've touched on the diverse research that currently takes place through the GFEI. So it's really great to see so many people here in the session. I'd like to thank you all again for joining us. And Edith, I wondered if you could share my slides as we move into the next part of the session. That's lovely, thank you. So a little bit about myself. For those of you who I haven't met, I'm Susanna Turner, and I provide research and innovation support to the Faculty of Biological Sciences. So my role is to help develop research ideas and projects. That's mainly for the National Pig Centre, but more broadly speaking, agri-food systems, with a particular interest in how livestock can play a role in mixed farming systems, which is just one of the very many ways that we can use the University Research Farm. So you've been given an introduction to the types of facilities and instrumentation that we have. You even had a 3D tour there with Gesa. And at this stage, you might be wondering, well, how do I access the farm for my research? So over the next 10 minutes, I'm going to give you a whistle-stop tour of everything that you need to know in order to access the farm. So firstly, all research projects that take place on the site are governed by an operation and management committee, and they meet every month, and all requests for research need to be approved by them. So who are the operation and management committee? Well, it's made up of representatives from our estates and facilities directorate teams, alongside key academics who work in this area. And it also includes our operational staff who work on site at the farm. So that's our commercial farm team. And there are two key access routes to the O&M committee, and that depends on whether your research involves livestock or arable. So for livestock research, we are currently recruiting a platform manager who will deal with incoming project requests, and we anticipate that that person will be in post around November. So the platform manager will then liaise on your behalf with the rest of the farm team to discuss the feasibility of your research, and they'll report any issues to the O&M committee. And then for all other research requests, that needs to come through the Farm at Leeds email address, which is listed on the slide here. And obviously, while we're waiting for the platform manager to be in post, that email address can be used for all inquiries relating to the farm. And next slide, please. So when you submit your initial inquiry to the Farm at Leeds email address, you will be sent a research proposal template form to complete. And this is used by the Operation and Management Committee to review your proposal and then liaise with the commercial farm team to see if we can accommodate your project. So what information do you need to include in that proposal template? Well, firstly, we'd like you to provide an overview and a brief narrative that outlines the kind of scope and aims of your research project. And then moving into the detailed specification. So within this, we'll need to know the location of your research, and that would be using the site plan that you can see on the slide there. You can see within the image that each field location is labeled with a unique identifier. And if you want any more information on these locations, then of course, we'll be happy to help you. Within your specification, we'll also need to know if you need to use any facilities, or if you're, for example, installing equipment on site. We need to know about that, alongside the specific activities that you will be undertaking. And then moving on to timescales, obviously we'll need to know the expected timescales. If you're, for example, applying for external research funding, then just an idea of when that deadline is for the submission. And also, if you're delivering the project, we need to know how that fits in with our cropping cycles, for example. In terms of the who section, In that, we're just looking for the faculties or schools that are involved in the research, the name of the PI, and any students or industry partners that are involved. And we also need to know the name of your finance contact so that the farm access charges can be calculated and added to your budget. And then lastly, the operational impact. So within this section, what we need you to consider is the impact of your project on our standard farm operations, such as our field use, our crop rotations, our outdoor pig herds, or any other livestock. We'll need to know whether you require site visits or whether you're having equipment installed, and whether there are any biosecurity implications if you're going to be working on the livestock side. Now, that may seem like a lot of work, but I can assure you the process has been streamlined to avoid any administrative or logistical issues that could arise down the line. And the proposal template itself is really simple to complete. If you don't have a project specifically in development and you simply just want to access the site, then we do have some general health and safety stipulations for physical site access. So all site visits need to be booked in advance with the facility support officer, and they're based at the National Pig Centre. We're currently recruiting that person, so while we're in the process of doing that, then you can contact our commercial farm manager, and that's Jared Benson. His email address is there for you. And Jared has oversight of the whole farm. So there aren't any restrictions on when you can visit, unless you specifically require help from the farm staff team, for example, in which case, obviously, you need to work around their availability. And on the day that you visit, all that we ask is that you sign in and out using a QR code, which we're all very familiar with now. And that's just so that our farm staff know you're on site and can help you if you need anything at all. If you're visiting the National Pig Centre, just one last note on that slide, you will be sent an additional form to complete in advance of your visit, which covers all of our biosecurity safety measures. So those measures include things like ensuring you haven't been in contact with any other pigs for at least 48 hours before arriving on the farm, and the need to shower before and after leaving the site. We'll also ask for information to enable us to prepare suitable PPE for you to wear while you're on the site. And all that's covered there. Moving on to access charges. So as the farm is operated commercially, and it is a university research facility, obviously there are charges associated with using the site in the same way that we'd expect to see with any university facility. So once your research proposal template has been completed, our central finance team will liaise with you to complete the costings, and that'll be in conjunction with your local faculty finance officer. So you can see on this slide, there are different charging models depending on the nature of the activity that you wish to undertake and any specific facilities that you require. So, for example, if your research involves the National Pig Centre or the arable land, we will work with you to create a bespoke costing based on the detailed nature of your trial. We also charge a fixed rate for site tours and storage on site. That could be for equipment. And you can also hire rooms at the National Pig Centre, which can be used for meetings. We have a conference space there as well. And you can even use one of the rooms if you want a permanent space to work. I'd just like to add that all of these charging models are continually being reviewed, developed and updated as we grow our research portfolio. And obviously we learn more about the nature of work that the farm can accommodate. The next slide, please, Edith. Thank you. There are just two exceptions to that charging model, those being undergraduate projects. So we don't charge anything, obviously, for students to use the site, and we really encourage them to do so. And tours of the farm that could lead to increasing the farm's visibility and therefore support its strategic direction. So, for example, if you're developing a relationship with an external partner, which could then lead on to a research project or an opportunity for external income. Now, they are all dealt with on a case-by-case basis. Next slide, please. Let Chris Whitty. In terms of technical support, I know a lot of you will be curious to know what we have on site to help you with your research. And we currently have 4 research technicians who are based at the National Pig Centre. We're currently recruiting a further 3. And as I mentioned earlier, we are also in the process of recruiting our platform manager, and they will all be able to provide technical advice and support. On the arable side, we are currently developing the infrastructure to support research on the wider site. But in all cases, whether that be livestock or arable research, I would strongly encourage you to consider the technical requirements of your research projects when you're doing your costings, and ensure that provisions are included in your budgets for any technical support that you might need. And that will in turn help us to build that infrastructure across the wider farm. Obviously, if you want to discuss any of your individual requirements with us, then please just use the Farm at Leeds email address. I've popped it again on that slide. And then moving on to the final slide, please, Edith. So I appreciate that was probably a lot of information to take in over a very short space of time. So to conclude this part of the presentation, I'd just like to thank you for listening and open up the floor to any questions. So please feel free to unmute your microphone, or alternatively, obviously, if you want to email us after the session, then please just use that Farm at Leeds email address, which I've put on the slide again for you there. And if there's no questions, then we can move into the next session.
Can I just make a quick comment, Susanna, just on the arable support? So one thing we do have that we value a lot is our relationship with NIAB. So NIAB are on site, and we have an agreement with NIAB that's being in the process of being formalised, but works very well, where they're performing trials, sowing out trials. For example, Laura Dixon's been using NIAB, and really there are no better people to do that in the UK. So in that respect, we've got sort of excellent support, but as our research grows and if there's a requirement for our own technical support independent of NIAB, then that will happen. But for the moment, it's there, and it's very good. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for mentioning that, Stefan. That's really, really key. Guy, I can see you've got your hand up. Do you want to ask a question?
That's another comment. I mean, probably most people on this call know that, but there's also equipment that was purchased to help research on the farm as part of the farm instrumentation project. So, I don't know who is the best contact person, Steve, maybe you or Stefan. If any, beyond the technician time, if people think that they can use some of the equipment we have for research, that's why we bought it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can use the Farm at Leeds email address for any general inquiry, whether that's relating to technical support or equipment. And we're trying to encourage more traffic through to that inbox, and there are quite a few of us that monitor it. So we can always signpost to the relevant people from there. Lovely, thanks. Edith, if you could just pop up my last slide. I think we've got 10 minutes remaining now in this group session. And I wanted to use that time to explore opportunities for growing transformative, sustainable farming research at the University Farm. So to kick us off, I thought it would be good to run a quick interactive poll, and hopefully this won't take too long. You'll see on the screen here that I've popped some instructions which will direct you to the Mentimeter website. So you can either manually type that email address into your browser if it doesn't intervene with your Zoom link here, or we're all pros at doing this. You can scan the QR code with your phone if anyone has a phone nearby. And then once you reach that website, you just need to enter the code that's listed there, 61793823. And you'll be shown 2 multiple choice questions. So I'm going to give you just a moment now to take a look at those 2 questions and submit your responses. And then I'm going to share my screen so we can see the live results as they come in. And thank you for listing the link there. I can see that's just popped up on the chat. Hopefully the other breakout session don't get confused. If anyone has any problems, please just unmute your microphone and shout out. We'll be more than happy to help you. And then Edith, I'm going to share my screen now to show the results of the poll as they come in. So thank you. So can I just check, can everybody see my screen here? I can't figure out how to move the bar. I'm so sorry, everyone. I'm a complete.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, this is very pleasing. We've had quite a number of responses. This is the part that I was really curious to find out about, because I'm conscious that some of you before today's workshop would not have heard about the research farm. And that's something that we need to change. So thank you for submitting your responses there. Moving on to the next slide. Let's have a look at the results. That's interesting. So lack of sustainability has got the most votes here. Apologies if you're still submitting your votes through, but I'm just conscious of time, and obviously I want to allow time for discussion now. Let's have a look. So climate change, that features just 3 votes for climate change. Future of subsidies, just 1 vote for that. Same with technology. Interesting, and we have an equal split between Brexit, and I'm sure a lot of people have been hearing in the news over the last couple of weeks about the labour shortages. So that's unsurprising to me, but this is key, lack of sustainability. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, if it will let me. There we go. And bring you all back into the main session. So yeah, that's really interesting. So it looks like the lack of sustainability is perceived to be the greatest challenge. Now I appreciate most of you will probably agree it's all of those areas, or maybe some more than others. It's not just one. And I was really trying to force you to make a decision today. So for the rest of the session, I'm just interested to delve into this a bit deeper and understand why you might have selected your option. So obviously, if we can all turn our cameras on, do we have any volunteers who'd like to tell me what types of issues spring to mind when you think of lack of sustainability as an example of a challenge facing the industry today?
I don't know whether you can see my hand or not, so I'm just gonna jump straight in, Susanna. So thank you for that. I think it was really informative, and you know, there are even a few points in there that I needed reminding of. So it's always helpful to have that. Thank you. I think with regards to that poll, the second question, I think I know you asked specifically about sustainability, but I wonder whether we can really separate Brexit and the labour shortages. And I know that labour shortages have in part been put down to COVID, but we know that they're also Brexit related as well. And so actually, I think we've got a tie between sustainability and that sort of the Brexit and its fallouts as another category. So I think those two things potentially have equal weighting. I mean, maybe that's why we see that split there.
Yeah, absolutely. And within sustainability, of course, that's such a broad area. It covers so many different things. And perhaps when you were answering that question, you had one area of sustainability in your mind, which I would be really keen to hear more about. Guy, I can see you've got your hand up.
Yeah, just to say, we talk about lack of sustainability, but sometimes our problem is there's higher standards in the UK, and that is now linked to trade deals with Australia, especially, and potentially what might come up as a trade deal with the US, where our welfare standards and some of our other food standards are higher than those partners that we are now allowing imports into the country from those other countries. And I think a lot of farmers that we've talked to in some projects are really worried about what those trade agreements mean, because we are more sustainable than some others.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. The implications of trade deals, I think, were probably being covered in the other breakout session that's occurring right now. And just for anybody on the call, if you're worried about missing that session, we are recording both. So if you do want to see what's happening over the other side, then we will share that after the workshop today as well. Phil, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to add to what Guy said there, and that we can actually see the impact of that on the pig farm at the moment. With the issues in the processing plants, you'd expect that prices would be rising, but in reality they're dropping because the market's simply being replaced by imports. The other thing I was going to add was that I was the one person who selected subsidies, because I think that actually for operational farmers, their immediate problem is their ability just to continue, never mind addressing any of the future problems, purely because the subsidy can be the difference between profitability and not for them. That's all I wanted to add, really.
And I think that's interesting. Sometimes as academics, our view might differ to that of the farmers who are doing the work on the ground. And that's something that's key for us with the university farmers, that we're working with those stakeholders and the people that our decisions affect. So that's, yeah, a really good point. Thank you, Phil. Stefan, I can see your hand is up.
Yeah, just very quickly, I think that the question that ended with today really depended on how we took that. Because if CO2 supply had been on the list, it probably should have won if it was on the list. So it depends on your view of today whether you mean what. But anyway, I wanted to just answer Andy's point quickly in the chat, because I don't think it is unrelated to the current discussion particularly. There are vast amounts of data, and we are working to secure the historic data from our tenant farmers. And they've agreed to supply that to us. And actually, we had a meeting yesterday where we were discussing how we would warehouse that data to make it easy for people to work with, and how we were going to integrate it with the other data flows that are going to come from the instrumentation on the farm. So yes, I think it's we potentially have a bit of a goldmine there. We want to capitalize on that and certainly make sure that we are capturing all of the data related to the farm in the future. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. I'm just conscious that we're going to get booted out of this session in 1 minute, and we haven't had much time. I can see your hand is up, Marcelo. But before we do disappear, we do want to encourage people to engage with us at the farm. Please use the Farm at Leeds email address. If you have anything that you haven't had a chance to voice today, let's keep this conversation going. I hope from all of the presentations that you've seen that there are so many opportunities for novel, transformative research that could take place at the farm. And so we would love all of you to be part of that picture.